Welcome to Ideas to Implementation, the podcast for women who have a business idea but feel stuck in a job. Featuring real women with real stories of how they went from employee to boss. My guest today is entrepreneur and business owner Laura Tynan. So welcome, Laura. Nice to speak to you.
Lovely to be here, Simone. Delighted to be here.
Oh, great. Tell us and the listeners about yourself, what you do, your business.
So I have my own coaching consultancy business. It's called it's found under lauratynan.com. But really the reason I have my business is because I spent about a decade working within the finance industry. And was very successful. I had built a very successful international career and was traveling around the world advising CEOs, global leaders on multi-million-dollar deals, turning around struggling companies, and really reached the pinnacle of what I desired to create when I was like 19 years old, going to university studying finance. But there was one big challenge. And if there's any business women, corporate women out there listening, and they may be able to relate, which was time and time again, I find myself as the only woman in the room.
Right.
And that really was, honestly, Simone, I was tired of it. I was like, I'm tired of being the only woman in the room. I'm tired of feeling like I don't really belong here. And I want things to change. So I really began to get involved in so many different initiatives to support gender equality in the workplace. How do we make real progress for women to move forward here, to get to the more senior ranks within their company, to move ahead, to accelerate in their career? And so that kind of led me down this new path of getting involved with women's networks and different industry events and mentoring and coaching women, helping them to create these transformations in their career.
Right.
Now, just to say, I was always a corporate woman. That was my goal, was to get to the highest ranks of my company, and that's where I wanted to go. And being an entrepreneur was not something that was really even in my mind to ever pursue. Which might sound crazy now, given that this is what I do full time, is to actually help other corporate women start their own businesses too. But it was actually from a place of passion that really this started. And so it was realizing this challenge that women were facing and realizing that I had this massive passion that I wanted to help them solve their problems. So last year I launched my own coaching business, working specifically with corporate women, but corporate women around the world. And that evolved to helping corporate women actually break out and leave the corporate world and start their own businesses as well. Which I'm sure you've experienced in your own business. You know, you start with A and it evolves into X, Y, and Z as well.
Of course, that's it. But that's the great thing about entrepreneurship, isn't it? It's watching that evolve and just, finding new lanes. I think that's really makes it fun. So whilst I get the motivation completely, obviously there's nothing like pain or passion to sort of push you into your purpose. But what sort of gave you the confidence to do it? Because it's not easy, is it? Sort of breaking out, you were top of your game as it were. So what gave you the confidence?
I knew why I really wanted to start this business. And I had already been working with a number of different women within the corporate world. So I had clarity on the type of transformations I could really create. And I was passionate enough about making this a success. And I think that's what gave me confidence. I think often confidence actually comes as a result of you taking action or being successful with something, because then you realize that you can do it. So, if anyone listening has an idea to start a business, but maybe doesn't have the confidence to do that, I would definitely recommend start testing that now. Can you do some client validation? Can you work with a potential client or test out your idea, your product, your service, and start seeing that there's a market for that there's an interest, there's a hunger for what you want to do. And I think that often does give people the confidence then to pursue what they're passionate about, because they know it's almost being validated in that sense. And that's really what had happened for me. And then I think you will know this, you have to know your why. Have a strong enough why that will get you through the challenges, because the challenges come. It won't be a straight course to success, but if you can stay persistent, keep focused on why you're starting, what it is success looks like for you, then, it definitely gives you the motivation to keep going.
Yeah, great advice. What would you say on that sort of line of challenges? What's been your greatest challenge since starting your business?
My greatest challenge is always going to be myself.
Okay.
Because we have our own set of limitations, our own set of beliefs that can often hold us back from taking that next step. And even as me as a coach, it's so plain for me to see it in other people, but we don't often always see that in ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any physical challenge in the world that any of us can never overcome, right? I think everything is figure outable, which is a great phrase by Marie Forleo I love to use. So, even starting the business logistically, like how do I leave corporate and actually go and do something completely brand new? How do I set up a website? How do I do any of these things? Like you don't come like knowing that, but you figure it out along the way. And yeah, they're challenging and different things, but the biggest challenge for me is always going to be myself, because if I can get in the right mindset, then I know I can achieve anything. And so that's always the most important thing for me to really focus on and invest in.
Yeah, I think that's key. Like you said, ourselves, we get in our own way a lot. And for you, how do you sort of deal with that? So obviously, you've said you are the biggest challenge at times. How do you deal with that? So personal development, is that big for you? How do you deal with you?
Personal development, Simone, is massive for me. And actually it was pretty much the core of this entire journey. So about 5 years ago, I was actually working at a company called Deloitte back in Ireland. And, I had done very well, I would say. Like I was a newly qualified chartered accountant. But I felt very unfulfilled in my work. I was kind of looking around thinking, is this it? Like I was doing good work and getting good salary, but good is never good enough, I don't think. So really for me, trying to figure out what that next step was meant I started really investing in personal development, even back then when I didn't quite know what that term even meant, to be honest. But I just started reading books and like doing webinars, and I took this big leap of faith, which was traveling to Toronto and actually spending 10 days working with Bob Proctor when I didn't have the time, I didn't have the money, I didn't have the resources. I had no idea how I was going to make it happen, but I just thought, this is going to be what's going to help me break out and make it to the next level in my career, whatever that's going to be. And so actually, to come back to the point, is investing in personal growth was what allowed me to shift internally in finance, to move to London and to start this whole new international career, completely reinvent myself, reinvent my career, and do the things I really always dreamt of. And I continued with personal. It doesn't stop. It's every day. It's a continuous process. And like you must be the same. If you're starting your own business, you'll know personal development is an everyday process, right?
Oh, yeah, it really is. It's an ongoing, lifelong thing, isn't it, to developing personally. And I think every new stage that you get to in your business needs a new level of personal development and growth. So that's key. And just on
100%.
yeah, just on that point, have you got any sort of good book recommendations? You said about books and stuff, or one book that's really stood out for you?
Oh, so many. It depends on where you are in your life and what you want to do. In terms of book, okay, so one that really helped me when I was in corporate and I used to, experience, it was a high intense job I was working in. So I was experiencing stress quite often. And it was really like, how do you manage that to your best? And there was a book, it's quite an unknown one. It was by James Allen, and it's called As a Man Thinketh. But there's actually a specific chapter in there, and it's only, when I say chapter, it's probably about 4 pages long. But it's more like a very long poem, I suppose. But it's called Serenity, and serenity being calmness. And I used to carry that around in my briefcase, and I used to read that quite frequently. And sometimes I'd write it out in the morning. And it was a practice that Bob Proctor had shared with me, 5, 6, 7 years ago. That he used to do, and he'd recommend to other people. And I thought, well, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me.
Of course.
But I found there's a power in words. There's a power in the language that we use. And there was something about that piece when I used to write it out, when I used to read it, it used to just bring that state of calm and presence to me. So I think for me back when I was in corporate specifically, that was something that I really benefited from. But even now, I mean, we all experience times where, stress is inevitable, and it's like, how do we manage ourselves in that state? So I would recommend that one for sure. Something a little bit different.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you. And so you're obviously doing really well. But what's been your greatest or one of your greatest achievements since starting your business?
Signing my first client and seeing the transformation she went through. That was probably the best moment, right? I mean, there's awards, there's accolades, there's all the other stuff, which is cool, but that's not why we do it.
Right.
It was, really just bringing that client on a journey and actually seeing that transformation. I mean, I don't know if you're the same, but for me, that's like the whole reason I do this. So to experience that was definitely the highlight so far.
Yeah.
And continues to be, right? Continues to be as you continue to work with more women.
Exactly. It's powerful, isn't it? Seeing that change and just being that privilege of being a small part of someone changing their life. It's amazing. And it's a privilege, like I say.
It is, because I've also benefited from working with great coaches, and I know just what a transformational experience that can be and how it can completely change your life. Yeah. So I love to be a coach, and I've also benefited greatly from being coached. So it's very exciting. And it's a privilege, absolutely, to be part of someone's life and to help them move forward in a very positive way.
Yeah, definitely. And how did you know, I mean, maybe it's tied into that. How did you know that you sort of had the right idea? I mean, there may be people listening, women listening now, they think, and they're not really sure about what that thing is. They just know they want to start their own business. How did you know you had hit the right thing?
It's interesting you bring this up, because I do find that women kind of fall into one or two buckets, right? There's women who have this passion, but they don't really know how to be the entrepreneur around it. Or there's women who just have a desire to be an entrepreneur, but don't really know of what. They don't have the idea yet. And both are very valid, and both work out on their own particular journey. For me, I definitely started with the passion, with the to create a positive transformation for women in business. This was always what I was passionate about for the past, 8-9 years, really getting involved in it. I never knew that would be my business, but it was probably within the last 18 months when I think I hit that point in my career where I really began to do a lot of self-reflection work on what do I really want to create in my life? Like, what type of impact do I want to have in this world? How do I want to spend my days? Like, what do I value most? Freedom for me is a big one. Impact, equality, and contribution. They're big values for me. And can I express that within the corporate world? Or how do I create a business around what I'm truly passionate about? So I began researching, like, who else are doing things that I love to do, and, began to look at what their business model looked like. Is that something I can replicate? And in a sense, I already had client validation, in the sense of I knew there were women out there that would benefit from this and wanted to work with me, because if you don't have a client, you don't have a business. So I think it's always a really important first step, is to know, like, do you have a client? Will someone buy this product or service from you? If you do, amazing, let's move forward. And there's easy ways to test that, I think, at the very early stages, even before you've left your job, to really ensure you're setting yourself up for success. But for me, it was knowing this was what I was passionate about, reaching that point of what type of life do I want to create, what type of impact, realizing that I could turn this passion into a business, and then really pursuing the journey of understanding what that business model would look like.
Yeah, that's key. I love that you talked about your values, because that's really important. And it does what you're doing tie into your values, and sometimes it's not found in a job, or for sometimes carve that out for yourself. Definitely
100%. And what's interesting, Simona, is that there's so many people who still don't really know what their values are. They're not clear on that yet. So it's understandable that it can be so hard to make decisions or move forward if you don't know what really is most important to you or what you truly want. So it's such an important first step before you make any decision, or to help you on that journey to understand what type of business you really want for yourself.
Yeah. And that's key. That's a really important, and I'm glad we've brought that out. So in terms of marketing yourself, because you said it there, if you don't have a client, your clients, you don't have a business. How Easy, hard, difficult, how have you found marketing and really getting your name out there?
So marketing, like personal development, I think is an ongoing process, and it's trial and error and it's testing. For me, I had a certain brand already in the space of empowering women. And I had been awarded by the Financial Times and Yahoo Finance in the space of empowering women in business. So I had a certain degree of kind of brand recognition in a sense. But it's very much getting intentional of who is your client and how do you want to show up for them? Like, what type of brand do you want to create? And it ties back a bit to the values again. And then being consistent, putting in place a strategy, which will change and evolve, but, putting in place some type of content strategy that you are consistently showing up on the platforms where you think your clients are going to be. So for me, for you perhaps as well, I would imagine LinkedIn is a big one, because we know that's where our clients are going to be and that's where they need us, and we can show up and be present for them there. But it's always evolving. I'm looking at different opportunities to collaborate with different brands, write for different media platforms, and just find many ways to really increase brand awareness, because for us in our business, we can't help women if they don't know about us.
Exactly.
And if we are in the business to help women, then that is obviously a number one priority for us.
Yeah, that's it. And I love that I think the key word there is consistency. And it is about consistency, because if you're not consistent, then people are going to wonder about you. Consistency, I always say consistency beats talent a lot of the time. There are people out there doing maybe more than you with less talent, shall we say, but literally because they've been consistent and keep showing up. So it's important to do that.
100% agree. Sometimes people just seeing your face continuously, they begin to recognize you and associate certain things with you. And they're like, oh, okay, I have a trust of that person because I see them quite regularly.
Yeah.
100% agree on that one.
Yeah. No, like, and trust. We come back to it.
Yes. Very, very true.
That's it. Thank you, Laura. So lastly, what 3 pieces of advice, and I think you've given great advice throughout the whole thing, but 3 pieces of key advice that you'd give to a woman listening now who has a business idea but just hasn't moved forwards at the moment, and just needs a little bit more confidence or a push?
So there's 2 mantras that I live by that I'll definitely share. That the first is progress over perfection. If you're waiting for things to be perfect. Yes. Oh my goodness, it's in the background.
Yes. Wow. We
are sisters on this one. Okay. Progress over perfection. Simone, I have a feeling you might agree with me on this. But it's like, if you're waiting for the perfect time, the perfect resources, the perfect amount of money, the perfect everything, it's like you're never going to move forward. You have to take the first step. Yeah. Your idea, and we have shared this already, your business idea will change. It will evolve. So don't wait until you have everything figured out. Just start taking action now. Start making progress. You'll figure out so much of it as you begin moving forward, because I promise you, if you think you need to know 10 things before you can start, the reality is you probably need to know 20 or 30. But you're only going to learn them as you start taking action. So yes, progress, not perfection. 100% agree with that. Tied into that, I always think, version 1 is better than version none. A good mentor of mine shared that. And it was, again, it comes back into that perfectionism, which I think women, especially, we can often struggle with so much. But it's like, get out your first version and then know it's going to get better. But start. Just get the first version out. Get that first product. Whatever your service you think it's going to be, put that package together. Start, learn along the way, amend, improve, continuously improve. But just know your version 1 is the best version you can do right now. So get started again. And it's again around taking action. Yeah. The third thing I would say is, and this is a piece of advice I remember I heard, and I thought it was such a great thing to hear, was if you feel stuck right now and you're not taking action moving forward, just realize that that's a choice you're making, that no one's putting you in that place, that you're choosing certain thoughts, certain beliefs, you're choosing to be where you are right now. That's not to say that you like where you are right now, but the reason I bring that up is because that also means you have the power to change that. and that no one else has to give you that power, that you actually have the power to choose again, to make new decisions, to take new actions, and to start moving forward and creating the life that you really, really desire. But that power lies within you.
Brilliant. Such great advice, Laura. Thank you so much. Before you go, please, how do the ladies listening get in touch with you? How do people connect with you?
Yeah, amazing. So I'm on Instagram at I am Laura Tynan. My website is lauratynan.com, and you can also find me on LinkedIn under the same name. But Simone, I also want to thank you so much. It's been such a joy speaking with you today.
Oh, no, thank you so much. And it's just been awesome. Such a wealth of knowledge, and no, you're doing great things, and just so pleased that we can be in the same space, because it's just,
Me too. There's a lot of women I know that will benefit from, support. And I think it's amazing that we can help them. So Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Laura.
Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time.